Right, for more, we are joined now by ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri. Mahlengi, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on. Before we get into some insights on the deliberations today, I'm sure you were listening to those clips that we played moments ago. What do you make of the opposition party's criticism of, one, the ANC government taking sides, but I suppose also the ANC itself as an organization taking sides in this matter of conflict, let me say, of Palestine and Israel?
Well, thanks for having me, Thabo. But I find it interesting that people that benefited from solidarity efforts by the Palestinians and many other oppressed people across the world, solidarity efforts to pursue struggles to liberate South Africans from oppression, are the ones today that are turning around and saying what they are saying. I don't know if I heard the voice of Muswa Likota among others. I hope that's not him, because that would really be quite a travesty. And these are the people that stood side by side with oppressed South Africans. And that is the basis for the ANC's historic alignment with and solidarity with the people of Palestine. Because we know all too well what an apartheid state and how it behaves. Fact of the matter is that Israel is an apartheid state. And we are not talking about Jewish people, but we are talking about the state.
Yeah.
And so I find it very interesting from that perspective. But I do want to just underscore the point, Thabo, by saying that our position has always been clear historically: self-determination for Palestinians, two-state solution, where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side.
Yeah. In terms of war, civilians bear the disproportionate brunt of the violence that we are seeing on both sides. And the Israeli ambassador to South Africa saying that more than 1,300 Jews were murdered, the biggest number since the Holocaust, and they are quite appalled at the fact that they are being butchered and slaughtered and their communities destroyed, yet you don't feel any, I suppose, compassion for them.
Well, I don't think that is correct. Even if you look at the positions of our South African government, very, very measured and balanced position. Civilians should never be found to be casualties of a war that was self-inflicted by the conduct of the Israeli government over 70 years now. And I do want to also just say that the so-called disproportionate amount of Jews that have been killed, I wonder if people are tracing back to history to look at what has been happening to Palestinians over all these years perpetuated by Israel. So I think the positions of the ANC are really clear, and I think anybody who knows this, who's been following issues in the Middle East, knows where the position has been, the ANC has been standing on this matter, and this is not something new. We must commend progressive Israelites and progressive members of various Jewish communities across the world. We've seen them rising and challenging the Israeli government to put an end to these atrocities.
Take us into some insights then of the deliberations today. It's day 3 of the ordinary sitting of the ANC. And I see some reporting saying the NEC is also sitting to resolve some cases that are sitting with the Integrity Commission, some 100 cases of members who have appeared before the Commission, including President Cyril Ramaphosa.
We have 91 cases, Thabo, to be exact. And today is day 2. Day 3 is tomorrow,
right,
where we wrap things up, and we can then provide a full account to the nation about various conclusions at the NEC meeting. But I can indicate also that on a matter of integrity management, it has received a very strong focus to the extent that the NEC has decided to convene in a matter of 2 weeks or so a special National Executive Committee that is just going to look at one item and one item alone: integrity management, and looking at the reports, the total reports of the Integrity Commission from its terms of reference all the way to the cases where they've made recommendations and will come to conclusions. So that is the seriousness with which we're taking this matter as part of the ANC's renewal. A number of the things have been covered since yesterday morning when the NEC meeting started. Apart from a strong focus on the Israel Palestinian conflict, we looked at a number of things in our own internal environment. For example, looking at our own in-house elections research report that is telling us trends and where we are sitting as we angle ourselves to go into a spirited elections campaign next year. So we've done quite a lot of analysis in that regard. We also looked at the success of our recent and ongoing manifesto review process, where we've been reviewing our 2019 manifesto and just reflecting on the feedback that we've been getting from all the regions where we've been, as well as all the provinces where we've been. Interestingly, we also tied that with a discussion on the outcomes of the 2022 census report, which in fact overstates what we stated in our manifesto review report in terms of the successes of the ANC-led government, but also tracking back to the 30-year review in terms of performance of government and the availability of services. And all of that is contained in the census report, but we will ventilate this further on Tuesday at our press briefing about what it tells us about our record. And this is now based on science, not so much based on information that is hyped up in the public domain. So we will look at
what is the ANC, while you're speaking of the manifesto and service delivery, what is the ANC's view on your deployee at Water and Sanitation's refusal to admit that the water shortages are now at crisis level? Yeah. We are losing close to 40% to non-revenue water leaks, or so to speak, and the actual leaks that are coming out of the pipe, sometimes they're estimated about 10 to about 15%. It's a serious crisis because it doesn't seem like there is any solution towards fixing.
No, I think let's place, Comrade Senzo Mkunu's comments in context. And this was in response to a question by a media colleague as to whether we are having water shedding. And we can say as the ANC that we don't have a water shedding in the same way that we understand the energy load shedding or electricity load shedding. And he gave a strong account about the fact that there are hotspots related to water reticulation in South Africa that needs to be fixed. He explained, for example, the phenomenon of water shifting, particularly that recently affected Gauteng, Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni particularly, and clearly outlining that we are not at a crisis level. And I think, we can provide the full detail in terms of the stats that he presented this afternoon to members of the media. So it is not at the level of equated to load shedding. We're not at that stage. Much more interventions are being done in the area of water services or water resource management, to be precise, to use the language, and much more is being done to sort out the issue of water reticulation. And that is where the interventions are actually focused on. Yeah. I did want to say, Thabo, that we also looked at that, the census. We also looked at the phenomenon of combating crime, but with a focus on illegal mining, the phenomenon of zama-zamas. There is a lot of detail that we'll provide at 10:30 tomorrow morning at another press briefing that will be addressed by the relevant employees in government. And of course, we also received the report on whether the National Energy Action Plan is really in full swing. And based on the data that we have, we can confirm that indeed we are minimizing load shedding in South Africa through the efforts of government. So that has been covered.
But you had particular choice words for PetroSA when it comes to that. Why?
If you could remind me about those choice words.
You slammed them in terms of their diesel supply, what you call shenanigans at PetroSA, for being among the reasons for the high levels of load shedding stages.
Well, there obviously will be a particular reason from the perspective of the need to coalesce all resources that we need, all within the context of an energy mix, which is the official policy of the ANC. And of course, some of those issues range from governance to execution. I don't think that it was a case of slamming. I think we've done the same with other SOEs that are not operating optimally. If you read the statement that was read out by the ANC Secretary General in relation to SOEs that have got to be fixed and should be fixed as in yesterday. So I don't think that it was an isolated thing that was looking at PetroSA. And then I think the last point I wanted to just speak to, we also looked at the issues in the sporting environment, and it's interesting, of course, that our national pride is, making the strong showing. Hopefully, we will come out victorious by the time we go to bed, and also just addressing the issue of anti-doping and assuring South Africans about the work that is being done by the minister deployed there to make sure that sporting codes, all of them in South Africa, can continue to carry our colors with pride internationally wherever they go, and in full compliance with international regulations. And those are just but some of the many issues that we looked at.
Mahlengi, I appreciate it as always. Thank you very much for coming on and for highlighting those issues for us. Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, ANC's national spokesperson.